Welcome to another episode of De-Stress with me, Dr. Amanda. On this podcast, I highlight the often underestimated impacts that stress can have on our lives, our bodies, and our health. Today's guest is someone that I need to start calling my dental twin. It is Dr. Bibiana Yetty. She is a mom of 4, she's a content creator, and she's also a dentist. I connected with Bibiana online and then I met her up in person a few months ago actually, and realised that a lot of our life is very similar. Although she's ahead of the game in terms of the children, having 4 children, coming up to the preteen age, we do actually share a lot of things in common. And our conversation today was about one thing that I know causes so many of us stress. And that is a conversation about motherhood, but actually how it kind of links with a very busy career and an ambitious woman. Both myself and Bibiana have had to navigate the realities of motherhood when you're also trying to build a career, and that's what we share and talk with you today. We both share some great tips about how we have navigated it. And so if you are on the motherhood journey, if you're a parent, if you have friends that are parents and you think that they need to hear this, have a listen to this episode. I think it would really help. And also if you are planning to have children and you're someone that's quite ambitious and you're like, how is this going to fit in with the work that I'm already doing? It can be a stressful time, but it also can be a beautiful time as well. And so I hope you enjoy the episode. So hi, Bibiana. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi,
Welcome to the De-Stress podcast. I'm really excited to have you on.
thank you.
No problem. So before I just get started and start the conversation, I really want you to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself, tell us a bit about who you are, and then we can get into it.
Hi, Amanda. Thank you so much for having me. So my name is Bibiana. Go by Bibiana Yetty online. I am a mom of 4, all under 10. I am a wife. I'm a Christian, and by profession, I am a dentist, but I also do content creation as well.
Brilliant. And as you can hear, guys, from that, Bibiana, you're a very, very busy woman. And the reason I was so excited to have you onto the podcast is because we've connected online before, like on Instagram mostly, and I've seen a lot of similarities between us and our motherhood journey. You are ahead of me in the motherhood journey, 4 children, and they're older, and some of them are older. I know your youngest is similar
Definitely.
age to my
Yeah.
eldest. But yeah, you're a twin mom and then 2 others as well. And really, this conversation is about navigating motherhood. Both of us are in quite highly skilled jobs that often go with having quite a lot of ambition with it. And sometimes some of these jobs aren't always seen as very family friendly or traditionally family friendly or woman friendly even. And so kind of navigating through that because to become a doctor, to become a dentist, a lot of the time you've got to be quite goal oriented and quite career driven. But then I found for myself that the the motherhood journey changed a lot of my focus that I didn't expect. And so that's kind of what the conversation is about today. It's something that I found quite stressful. And I know that a lot of people find the whole transition to motherhood and the new identity that comes with it can be quite
Yeah.
stressful. And so hopefully we can discuss it and you can share some of how you found the journey. I can share some of how I found it and, you know, how we continue to navigate it now. And so I guess the first question is, tell us a bit more about yourself before the children. So like what kind of things were you doing? How were you in terms of the workplace? What were you like before?
So I would say I went into dentistry, and you're right, it's a profession that is very ambitious. It's not easy to get into, similar with medicine. So I went into it for the long run to even go further in my career. Like, we're continuously learning in this profession. So I always knew that undergrad wasn't the end for me. I'd be thinking about postgraduate qualifications following on, but also a family as well later on. So I guess to answer your question, I just went in knowing I wanted to be a dentist, but then further afield, either specialize or go into more of a specialist interest in a certain area, but still progress in my career to be kind of like the best dentist I could be.
Mm-hmm. I hear that. And so before you had children, so you said that, you know, the journey of motherhood was always something that was on your mind. Like, you know, you
Yeah.
thought you wanted to have kids in the future. What did you think, if you can remember, what did you think motherhood was going to be like in terms of how it would play with your career?
So I kind of had, you know, I guess similar to you, I don't know if you make that whole 5-year career plan. So I
Mm-hmm.
had a pretty solid, in my mind, 5-year career plan that after, and in that career plan, I actually did want to have children early on. So it was intentional. I wanted my kids maybe in the
Yeah.
first year or two of graduating.
Mm-hmm.
I really thought the kids were kind of, or at least the first child would slip into, my plans, my career plan.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of where I want to go in the first 5 years. And then I even planned like what age the child will be when I potentially have my next one. Um, and yeah, so I always had this vision of having a big family and still doing my career at the same time. And I guess I'm very fortunate. My mum is also like a dentist as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so I kind of saw that modeled for me. But she had maybe a different journey from me because she did it abroad initially, but I always kind of had that drive. This will be fine. This is how it's going to work. Yeah, at
Mm-hmm.
least I thought it would work like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had something very similar. So yeah, to get into medicine as well, it's not an easy thing to get into, and to also not just get into it, but actually complete the degree,
Yeah.
and like qualify at the end of it and everything. But I, like you, always saw myself having a family. I got married literally the month after I finished medical school. And so I was like, I want to have children, but I said, you know what, I want to work in a hospital for the next few years. So let me we'll wait a few years until I'm out of hospital working. So I knew I wanted to go into general practice, and then we'll start having kids then. And I remember even up into the point where I was like just before I went into maternity leave, my first child, I was in GP training. We have like weekly teaching. And so we're all
Hmm.
sat down there having the weekly teaching. And then a lot of people a lot of GPs are known for working part-time. And so one of our trainers just said, what are your guys' career plans? Who's planning to work full-time? Who's planning to work part-time? And I was like, yeah, full-time. And everyone's like, really? Me there with my massive bump. I was like, yeah, like everyone works full-time. In my family, there isn't really like my parents worked full-time, they had kids. You just kind of slot in. I was like, I made sure, I thought I planned everything. You spoke about this like 5-year plan. And
Mm.
I was actually training in Leeds, and I moved back down to the West Midlands where my family are from after 2 years of marriage, because I knew I wanted to have kids. I was like, I'll be around around my parents, the
Mm.
grandparents be there, they'll look after them. I'll find a really good nursery.
A very
I'll pay for
similar
that.
plan.
I was just like, I just thought childcare would be amazing. I will work full time, and then when I spend time with the kids, it will be quality time.
Mm.
That's what I thought. I thought that's what I needed. I thought it's not about quantity. That's not what's important for me. It's quality time. So when I'm with them, I'm focused on them. But otherwise, 5 days a week, everyone else looks after them. That's honestly what I thought. And you alluded to it, that motherhood always changes. But when did you? I know from your schedule or from what we spoke about that things maybe aren't so career heavy, that you do have some days at home with the children. How things are now, did you expect it to be like this? Did you expect your routine to look how it does?
So my expectation of working motherhood is that I would be able to work full time while having a young family, obviously with my husband's support. Similarly, I moved closer to my parents as well because I thought, okay, I've got this all planned out, think ahead. So I guess that's all down to the expectation. The
Mm-hmm.
reality is um, that I found it very difficult to. I did
Mm-hmm.
initially start working full time, but I felt like I was constantly doing this full time stretch for a bit, and I need a break,
Yeah.
a long break with like annual leave to like recover, um, because it started getting very overwhelming. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
demands on motherhood, and children are just unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this concept of relying on, feel very grateful and blessed to have, parents who can help, but they have a life. I kind of forgot
Yes.
they didn't have our kids. They finished that season, and not
Uh-huh.
that they would ever say no to it, but I think I started realizing, oh, it's not just give the kids to you just give the kids to your parents. They've got things they need to do as well, and as they get older, it gets more challenging as well. So I think I didn't realize that as well. People always made it out like, oh, they're going to the grandparents for the whole weekend,
Yeah.
and you still have date night, and you still work, and you still do all this stuff, and it slips in. And also just that they still work as well. They're still at the age where they're able to work, so they have their own commitments as well, to keep up with. Um, so I think those were the things I didn't really expect. I didn't expect for childcare to be as expensive as it was. Like, you
Yes.
need to think I'm like a quote unquote decent job, and I'm struggling with these
Mm-hmm.
bills. So those are things I didn't expect as well, that I'd be paying a second mortgage in childcare,
Mm-hmm.
and how that then depletes the um income stream that I was going to invest in maybe
Yes.
postgraduate. And then things start slowing down a bit because the 5-year plan then changes, because it just has to shift. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
like the plan. I think what changed was I still have the same goal, but now I've
Mm-hmm.
realized it's going to take me to get there. And I
Yeah.
never expected it to take that long.
Mm-hmm. I hear that. And that's the thing, because this is what I found the most stressful. It was accepting that the motherhood journey
Mm.
was different. It was that realization, because for me, it took me a little while to realize that things couldn't run how I had planned for them to run. So I remember going back to work after having my first and going back full time. And then I was like, hold on, I'm not managing with this. This is a lot. I'm needing those breaks. And then I used all of my annual leave to take Fridays off. So that would only work
Mm.
4 days a week to try and, until I could get a new schedule. And so I was doing 4 days a week. And that's when I started wanting to still having all these goals, but finding that some of the goals and some of the timeframes I was doing was because I had planned it before, not because it was what I necessarily needed now. And so what was quite stressful for me was that transition between the two. It was from the expectation to this is what the reality is, and actually making some changes to meet that reality rather than trying to force myself into that box that I'd planned out beforehand, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What you were saying though about the grandparents, because I'm so privileged to have my parents here to help with the kids, but you're absolutely right. I think I'm the difference is that when I was young, I also had my grandparents who looked after me, but it was a different time where my grandparents weren't doing as much as my parents do in terms of like socially. And
That's the most.
but listen, it was a different area. My parents now, and my mom, she works. They're both retired, but they both have a lot of other projects on. So like they're retired from their full-time jobs, but they still do loads of things. And like right now, they're in Rome because why not?
I was gonna say they're traveling, like
They're
they're catching
traveling.
flights.
Listen, and it's that season of life for them. And also, I found myself as my career has changed, I'm actually working just so differently to what I ever imagined. And it was stressful coming to this, but now I've really tried to embrace what's happening now, what in the season that I'm in. I've got really young children, and I actually want to be around. It's not just the thing of like my parents are busy and childcare is expensive and it's tiring working. It's also that I actually want to, it's not
Want to be
just,
there.
yeah, it's not just, I thought before that I just needed like quality of time and make, amazing memories when we're together and go on holidays and do all this amazing stuff on the weekend. But actually, I want the quantity as well. And I think that's a bit of what surprised me. And as the children increase, I've noticed that my days in work decrease. I don't know what happened when they go to school, if that will like change back. But I went from 4 days a week to 3 days a week, and now I'm 2 days a week and doing a bit of entrepreneurship on the side as well. And so it's just ever evolving. And I think that can sometimes be stressful if you're still kind of living for those expectations rather than just allowing yourself to evolve with it. I just wanted to, how did you find that transition? So obviously you've got 4 children now. Did you find that every time, whenever you increased your family, the transition kept happening? Or did you like with the first, it was twins first that you had, is that right? Yeah. So with the first two, was it, oh gosh, I'm just thinking about your childcare costs. 2 children. I understand.
It was
I
K
know
in
where you said it
nursery.
was
I
a
was thinking about,
mortgage. Yeah, I see why you said it was a mortgage. But did you find that you quickly adapted to the changes, or do you feel like it was a bit of a journey? And yeah, how was that for you, kind of getting into the reality of what motherhood was like for you?
yeah, I think, yeah, you're right. It changes as the number of kids go up, but even the season they're in now. So when I started, so very similar to you, I actually got married in my training year, at the end of my training year. And then I got pregnant. No, I got married when I graduated. Since I graduated, I got pregnant in my training year.
Mm-hmm.
So just as I finished my training year, I wasn't even sure if I'll get to finish the training year. Um, so but at the same time I was doing like a few postgraduate courses. I already got one under my belt. And to get the full diploma, I need to finish the second one. And that's where I struggled. I couldn't even finish
Mm-hmm.
the second exam, from morning sickness to just all these things that even before the baby comes, they're already
Yeah.
showing you the changes that they that will have on your life. But maybe just to ad hoc and jump on what you said as well, it the thing that changed is I actually desire to be home more as well. Like you go in saying, "Oh, I'm going to be able to do both." I think similar mindset. We wanted to be present parents, but it got to a point where I was like, "No, I actually miss my kids. I want to be
Mm-hmm.
home with them more, even if I don't." Even if I did have childcare that day, it's like no, it's like that desire to be around them more. But yeah, when I had the twins, everything from the finances, but I guess that first child, every season is different. The first
Yeah.
child, there's a level of energy. You're younger technically,
Yeah.
especially if it's the first. You have this kind of privilege where everyone wants to help.
Mm-hmm.
People jump in, especially with twins. I felt very blessed. We had a lot of people jump in and support, and so I was to extent able to do some of my career as well. But yes, as they got older, and then we added to the family as well. So we had our third when the twins were 2, and that was felt like, yeah, that's when I had to put a big halt for a period because they
Yeah,
were
I can
all
just
like,
imagine.
yeah, in like nursery period and that nursery season as well. And then when I got, so then I went from full time, similar journey, going from 5 days, I was even doing like 6 days. I was able, when you first
Mm-hmm.
start, you're able to just do anything. Um, and then it was like going down to 5, then 4, then 3, and yeah, similar, like 2 days is pretty
Yeah.
much what I do. And then located in between.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's this desire where you want to keep up with what you like, what work gives you, and the like from the satisfaction to the finances, but you want to be home. And so work
Mm-hmm.
changed in terms of you find other avenues similar to you in entrepreneurship, and actually enjoying the fact that I didn't actually want to be just a dentist. I didn't realize
Yeah.
that. And I think motherhood had me as well. I thought, oh, I have other skills as well, which probably came from motherhood
Mm-hmm.
and just living motherhood lifestyle and problem solving and
Yeah.
organization. Then you're like, oh, these skills that are a little different to conventional, healthcare lifestyle. You can use them in another area. So yeah, those were the changes. And I would say as well, as the kids get older, I also had this expectation it'll get easier. I thought once they get to school, it'll be easy. And sorry to burst that bubble, it
I
does
was
get
gonna
easier in
say
terms of maybe.
this is the sentence that I say all the time. When they go to school, once we're out the toddler years, am I wrong?
Unfortunately, yeah, things do change. Like it was nice to see, like, be like, oh my gosh, no more nursery fees.
Mm-hmm.
But the other things open up because, like I'm in a season now where my oldest are 9. They're not teenagers yet, and I know that's going to be another season, but they're in that tween stage. We're looking at secondary schools. We're thinking of entrance exams. Homework is at another
Yeah.
level. Extracurricular lifestyle means that you're doing football training,
Mm-hmm.
tennis, all these sports that you want to give your kids this amazing opportunity in life that you probably didn't do when they were babies and toddlers. And you're still their chauffeur because they can't drive. They have no
Yeah,
money.
yeah.
You're still like responsible for everything for them, their emotional needs. Um, so I think warriors is people right, you never stop being a mother
Mm-hmm.
until they're probably 4, adults, I think I've come to realize, even if I get to teenage stage, that this is going to be full on.
Yeah.
Motherhood is a job. That's what I realized as well.
Mm-hmm.
Motherhood, I didn't know that before. I thought motherhood fitted into my job, but mother's actually a job. So we're doing
Yeah.
another job full time,
Mm-hmm.
more than full time hours.
Yeah. And that's the thing, it's making the space for that. And I think where it can become quite stressful and overwhelmed, I think even if you've got like the balance, great or whatever, I don't think there's a way to do motherhood without having moments of stress and overwhelm. Just think about when the children are sick, or you've got the
Yeah,
entrance exams coming up. That there are going to be moments where you're raising, like, you're trying to shape young minds and raise them and not traumatize them. Like, it is an overwhelming task to have, no matter how good you do it. But I think something that helps me not to feel quite as overwhelmed on like a daily basis is actually seeing it for what it is and actually giving it its space to be a job like that. Because before I was trying to kind of make it fit around the peripheries, but when I don't give space to it, that's when all the overwhelm is just far too much.
yeah,
And I remember feeling quite burnt out whilst I was pregnant with my second. I just found that I just had no more capacity because I was trying to just fit motherhood around, rather than just leaning into it properly. What you were saying though about the addition, how it changes as you have more children. You're right. When you have that first child, everyone kind of just really wants to help out and be there. And then the second child, especially if they're seeing you like mothering already, like, the new
she's fine.
baby, oh, she's all right. It's like, oh, it's a bit overwhelming. But yeah, really, that's the thing. The transitions, I think, can be quite difficult. So right now, my youngest is 1 year old, one is a 1 year old, and this season is still difficult, but I feel less overwhelmed because the transitions happened now. I've got the two kids, and I can't even imagine what life was like before the two of them. And even though it changes all the time, but that first initial part of adding that child in, it was again just trying to lean into the season that I was in, but I was still trying to do exams. Like on my maternity leave, I had a short maternity leave this time, and I was doing a diploma at the same time, and all these things, and which are which are good things to do. And I'm actually, like, from my career point of view, I'm glad that I did that. But it's just it's sometimes about the timing and making space for things. And slowing down. I think that's been my issue. Sometimes I've got the 5-year plan you spoke about. Now for me, I've got more of like visions of how I want things, or like goals that I have, but not so much the restricted, these are the exact steps. Whereas before, if you asked me my 5-year plan, I could tell you it maybe month to month. Like, it was very, very detailed. Whereas now it's like, yeah, I want to do this, and this is the plan of when it's going to start. But that I let
the feeling now, like how you
Mm-hmm.
want to feel as a mother, how you want to
Yes.
feel as a doctor, how you want to
Mm-hmm.
feel as a woman in business.
Yeah, exactly. It's that feeling now, rather than being so prescriptive. And it's also what you were saying as well about, trying to fit all these different, find these new skills, and finding like motherhood's allowed you to do that. And I say, like, since becoming a mom, I have become a better doctor. I've become a better wife in some aspects. I'm a bit more irritable, I won't lie, but I've become I've become a better daughter. Like, just because I have this bigger perspective now, and these skills that you just don't have beforehand. It's opened a whole new world to me. Motherhood has, even though it has been stressful and overwhelming at times, but really leaning into it, it has opened like all these new doors. And so I was just wondering, in terms of now, so you are doing dentistry, you're doing entrepreneurship, you're managing the children. Are there things that there's a lot of overwhelm? It's a typical week, there's so many different tasks that you're doing. Are there any like practical things that you do to try and help with that process, or help you to manage through? I'll give an example for myself. I used to be the to-do list queen. Like, I would just write to-do lists and like, today I've got 50 things that I've got to do, and I'm just going to get them done. If I've got a day off, especially like when I was working full time, if I had a random day off that day, I would be able to like bash through things. Whereas now I don't quite have to-do lists. I might write down tasks that I need to do, but I try to schedule them. So I changed my to-do list into a diary entry, and that's helped to actually schedule in when I'm doing things. And then sometimes I realize that there's too many things on there, and then I've got to eliminate stuff. And so that's been something that's helped me in this season where there's just a lot going on. Is there anything that you do practically to kind of help you through navigating everything?
Yeah, so like similar to you with the schedule, I think that really helps. A lot of us have this to-do list. I think half of the stress comes from not completing the to-do list because it was never going to be completed anyway if it didn't have an assigned time slot and you weren't realistic about what was on your plate, including being a mum. So yes, definitely resonate with that, having a schedule. As well, I think having like a routine really helped me. Again, before motherhood, I didn't necessarily have to have a strict routine because it was all dependent on me. But now, because as soon as my kids are up by 7-ish, anything I want to do cannot have a structure or be solid. I need to make sure I've had some time for myself beforehand. So in that, so for me, it's having like a morning routine. I think that's what sets me up for the day because you just don't know what's going to be thrown at you with work, with life, with motherhood, the good and the stressful. So like a routine for me is like just 3 solid things to get me through is like firstly waking up early, well before the children, having time as a Christian, having time with God, and I feel that just fills me up spiritually. Having time and then journaling my thoughts in that process as well. And then having time to exercise. I'm not doing like some crazy workout, but just moving my body. And obviously, as doctor, endorphins and everything is going to help. And having time to plan the day as well. There's like the 3 things I do, and that gives me a level of like control in my day. Once you feel like you're in control, I feel you feel less overwhelmed. And obviously, just the fact that you've had quiet time and you've exercised as well, that adds some of the physical elements as well to help one feel a lot less stressed. So those things help. And then I guess carrying on to that, things like trying to outsource as well, where I can. I struggled with that in the beginning, this element of mum guilt, where you want to do everything and you could do everything or could do quite a lot before children. But again, it's not accepting that motherhood is a job. So same way I have a 9 to 5 job, if I own that business, I would outsource someone to help in certain areas. We don't want to do that in motherhood. And we feel guilty about it. And sometimes society shames doing it. And it's like you're praised for being more of a superwoman. People say I'm superwoman. I'm like, thank you, but that is not my goal.
Yes.
Like, a superwoman's an out woman. I don't want to be a burnt out woman. Like, so yeah, just recognizing a sign of those as well. Yeah, I think that's the main things.
Honestly, those things, like that's what I'm, excellent points, because I'm trying to implement a lot of those things now. That whole point about mom guilt, when you're kind of giving away some tasks, I really have struggled with that. And with my second child, I wanted to have her at home a bit longer before putting her into nursery. I don't know why. And so on my work from home days, I was like having her here with me. And now I'm like, she's starting nursery next week and I cannot wait because I just wasn't serving anybody. Like, let the childcare come. And so I can be like focused on that. And then when I'm with them, I can be focused on them. Also for me, when you talk about delegating, getting a cleaner has been the most useful thing that I have done.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, getting a cleaner. This is everyone should have a cleaner. If you enjoy cleaning, I know some people do. I'll be honest, I like cooking. I don't mind, tidying, but cleaning, it has to be done. I like to have a very clean house, which is difficult with toddlers, I know. But I like to have a clean house, but I also don't enjoy cleaning. And so getting the cleaner, delegating that task is just life-changing. But yeah, I'm like yourself as well. I think as moms, you really need to carve out time for yourself and have a bit of control in your time. And so people that are like night owls, often they will stay up late and do that then. And I have a lot of friends who do like have the evening time to themselves. But I am such an early bird. I can't stay awake hardly after the kids have gone to bed, and my children wake up so early. And so I've had to do what you're saying and find this time in the morning. And because one of the, like, some of them, they'll wake up at like 6, sometimes 5:30. And so I'm waking up earlier and earlier to try and have a bit of time to myself. But that piece about having time with God first thing in the morning, just to it really helps me with like perspective. It helps me with like feeling peace, and just feeling like a covering over the day and for my family. And so I think it's important to do that too. So excellent tips and things that I'm trying to implement more and more. But I think it's been a great conversation. I just want the listeners to go away with this. If you are heading into motherhood, or if you are already a mother, and you are struggling with this transition of life, really try to lean into motherhood. Remember, like Bibiana said, it is a job and it needs to be respected like that. And hopefully a lot of the overwhelm that comes with it, trying to fit motherhood around the peripheries, you can just create a new life. I have friends that ask me, oh, what's it like having kids? Or I'm like, when you do it, you need to just lean into it. You become a new person, and like your priorities change, and lean into it. I can't tell you what it's going to be like for you. You can't plan it beforehand. You've just got to kind of roll with it, really. But Bibiana, thank you so much for the conversation today. Please, can you share with everybody where they can find you and follow you on your influencer and content and everything online?
Thank you, Amanda, and thank you for having me. It's been an absolute honor to be on your podcast, and thank you for what you're doing here. You can find me Bibiana Yetty, pretty much. I use that mainly, and that's on YouTube. Bibiana Yetty vlogs on YouTube, and Bibiana Yetty on Instagram. I haven't really done much else outside that, but if I did, it would be Bibiana Yetty.
Yeah. And I'll link everything in the show notes and in the description box. Once again, thank you. And thank you everyone for listening. Don't forget to like this, share, subscribe. If you listen to Apple Podcasts, please rate and review. You can find the podcast on Apple and Spotify under De-Stress with Dr. Amanda. And on YouTube, it's on my channel, Life with Dr. Amanda. And we'll be back again next week with another episode. Thank you.
Thank you.